This is your Giro d'Italia rest day recap, in which I'll be breaking down the action of stages 1 to 9 from the Giro d'Italia to fill the void of the rest day blues. The Giro started off hot this year, and it's fair to say so far it's been an incredible start to Grand Tour racing. So without further ado, let's jump into each stage we have witnessed so far. Stage 1 was a 140k stage starting in Venaria Real and finishing in Turin. Jonathan Narvaez of Ineos Grenadiers was victorious and as such become the first man to don the prestigious Maglia Rosa. Narvaez took a sprint victory over Max Scherman of Bora Hansgrohe and race favourite Tadej Pogacar. But whilst Pogacar did not win the stage, he did put a serious dent into his fellow contenders, especially Romain Bardet and Thymen Arensman, who both seemed to crack on the Col de Madalena. It was the final climb of the day in which Pogacar set off at speed, but Narvaez was able to keep the Slovenian's wheel where the likes of Geraint Thomas and Dani Martinez were not. Equally, Schachmann was able to bridge the gap to Pogacar and Narvaez, and on the descent it was quite clear that the winner would come from this trio. A great start to the Giro for Ineos Grenadiers, and whilst Pogacar didn't win the stage, it's fair to say that the damage his team done to the rest of the GC contenders would be a victory of sorts for the favourite to win the race. And Pogacar didn't leave it long to sprinkle his dominance on the race, which came on stage 2 when he blasted off on the steepest part of the Centauro di Europa to win the stage and take the Maglia Rosa off of the back of Jonathan Narvaez. But it wasn't all plain sailing for Pogacar, who crashed at the bottom of Europa after suffering from a flat tyre which caused him to crash on a corner. Dani Martinez and Geraint Thomas rolled over the line in second and third place, but it was Ben O'Connor who seemingly was the biggest loser from the GC contention on stage 2. The Brit, who rides for Decathlon AG2R, lost a minute to Pogacar after putting in an over-the-top effort to try and stick to Pogacar's wheel, which inevitably did not work out well for O'Connor. Some did question Ineos' tactics during the stage, as the team were happy to try and protect Narvaez's Maglia Rosa reign, but in doing so effectively played into the hands of Team UAE Emirates, who were able to conserve their energy levels until the climbing began at the back end of the stage. Stage 3 on paper was clearly a sprinter stage, and after 2 tough opening stages it was a welcome addition to the fast men in the peloton. But that was almost not to be, as Pogacar was up to Pogacar things and nearly upset the apple cart. With just about 3k to go on an uncategorised climb, Pogacar launched an attack which only Geraint Thomas quickly able to jump on, and for a while it was touch and go as to whether the 2 main GC contenders would be caught. But the power of the peloton proved too much, catching the pair with just a few hundred metres to go and delivering an exciting sprint finish. Soudal Quickstep's Tim Millier was the man who crossed the line first, just ahead of Jonathan Mihalan and Binamai Gurai. Another sprint stage on stage 4 into Andorra, and this time all riders stuck to the script to deliver a frantic finale on the Italian Riviera. Jonathan Milan was the winner of the stage and proving he is one of the most powerful sprinters in the world, taking his second Giro stage win of his career. Caden Groves come in at second and Phil Bauhaus third. Ineos Grenadiers' Filippo Ganna did launch a solo attack 4k out, and it looked like the Italian may have done enough to claim the win. But once again the peloton were able to show power in numbers and caught Ganna with about 600 metres to go. It took us until stage 5, but we finally got a breakaway win, which for me is one of the great things to happen in stage racing. Benjamin Thomas was the victor, and in doing so claimed Team Cofidis' first win of the 2024 season. Thomas was joined by Enzo Pellini, Andrea Petrobon and Michael Falgrin as the 4 formed a breakaway midway through the stage. They worked tirelessly to keep the gap open, and it played into their favour that there was clearly some misjudgment within the main peloton and a severe lack of coordination, which ultimately led to the 4 men never being caught. Things did look dicey at the finale, and cracks in the force started to show, with the Italian Petrobon not willing to take his turn and conserve his energy for a last-ditch attack. But his attack was not enough to land him the stage victory, as Thomas powered to the line just ahead of Valgren. Stage 6 promised us another breakaway stage and also the inclusion of some gravel sections, including the famous white road seen in the Strada Bianchi. But we had to wait for over 90 kilometres before the break was allowed to go up the road. Whilst the peloton seemed content with keeping the break at a gap of 3 minutes, the gravel sectors certainly brought that gap down. The gravel also caused havoc for the likes of Dani Martinez, Ben O'Connor and Kian Utebrooks, who crashed but were all luckily able to get back on their bikes. Ineos controlled the gravel sector for the peloton, but a small break of Julian Alaphilippe, Luke Plapp, Pelayo Sanchez got down the road, and ultimately we were able to hold off the peloton and deliver the three men to a sprint finish. Plap on paper was the strongest sprinter, but an attack from Alaphilippe was shut down by Sanchez, who was able to power past the Frenchman to claim his first ever victory in his Giro Italia debut. The first time trial of the Giro came on stage 7 with a 40km TT from Foligno to Perugia, and whilst things were lining up to be a celebration of Italian Filippo Ganna, Tadej Pogačar stole the show with the last ride of the day coming in 17 seconds quicker than Ganna. Pogačar made huge dents to his GC contenders, with Geraint Thomas dropping to third place and Danny Martinez moving up to second in the GC standings, 2 minutes and 36 seconds behind Pogačar. Elsewhere, Australian Luke Plapp took the Maglia Bianca from Kian Uterbrooks and moved himself up to the top 5 in the GC standings. The climb at the end of the route was where Pogačar was really able to do the most damage to the rest of the field, and things had been looking great for Ganna at the first time check, with Pogačar 46 seconds down. But even the power of Ganna was not enough to fend off a flying Pogačar, who, short of incident, probably rode himself to the first Giro win of his career on stage 7. The mountains returned on stage 8, and whilst again on paper things looked as though they would favour the breakaway for a win, it was not to be, as Pogačar took his third stage win in triumphant fashion. His UAE teammates kept the break of about 14 riders on short leash, only ever letting them get to about 2.5 minutes up the road, before bridging that gap and delivering the Slovenian to the top of Prati de Pivo, where he was able to kick things up a notch to come across the line ahead of Danny Martinez and Ben O'Connor. The stage didn't damage the GC standings too much, but unfortunately both Luke Plapp and Romain Bardet had their GC hopes slashed as the pair struggled on the final climb of the day and lost a lot of time to Pogačar. It took 9 stages, but Visma Leasebike were finally able to claim a victory in the Giro, with Olav Koy pipping Jonathan Milan on the line to take a stage win. Whilst the break was formed early in the stage, it was never really a fully committed breakaway, and as the miles ticked down, it was becoming more and more likely that the race would be won by the fast men in a bunch sprint. But that never nearly happened when stage 1 winner Jonathan Narvaez gapped the main group in a solo attack, which was nearly never caught. Jonathan Milan and Olav Koy were at the front, and after swallowing up Narvaez, it became a battle between the two sprinters, with Koy able to edge ahead on the line and get the victory.
Utterly dominant.
All in all, it's been a fantastic start to the Giro, and with some very exciting stages to come. It should
now
make
in
for a
charge
hell
of
of
the
a
Giro
race.
for a week.
Next
Very healthy
episode
margin
of the Rest Day
after
Recap
7
will
days.
drop next Monday, in which I'll be
A second
reviewing
stage
stages
win of the
10
Giro
to 15.
d'Italia.
Will Pogačar
Beating
still
the
be wearing the
redesign
Maglia
of the
Rosa?
GC.